then this is the activation of the third ear, because basically you're hearing nature's sounds, nature's movements, nature's funkendating components, and all this kind of stuff, and you're capable of hearing this. You have this ultrasonic third ear to be able to tap into this, right? And so as this is projecting and coming through, it always starts this process of making me feel first like a little leery of what's happening. It's just foreign. I'll put it like that. It just is so foreign. And what was happening as I was going through this process is I was starting to see how the mind was saying it was foreign, and then trying to create a picture of what it looks like and what it's experiencing. I'm just giving you a play-by-play here. I even saw my face just kind of like smearing. But I was able to catch that it was the mind doing that. In the mind's feverish hostility of trying to identify everything, it was just like playing charades. Like, it's this, it's this, it's this. And I was able to catch it enough to say, okay, just sit down. Just stop doing that. You're not even getting it. And not to mention, I can remember every time we go on journeys, you always do this. So get out of here and let me process this, not from I'm trying to understand it, I'm trying to comprehend it, but just that I'm listening. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to listen a long time before I come into any judgments about it. And so as that began to happen metaphysically, I started to hear other elements. I started to hear fire or fuel. I started to hear all this, where this was coming from. And then I engaged the narrator. The narrator is like, we'll explain what's happening, but in very short, concise revelations. And in this process, the narrator was like, so you see how this is that when your two eyes close, you'll be done with that world that you're in. You won't be able to see that world anymore. That may seem like common sense, but again, common sense ain't common. But here's what's going to happen. You hear that, what you're hearing right now? That's a world too. And it's way more realer than the world you're even in right now. The issue is you cannot see this world because your faculties need to be trained a bit more. I'm not saying anything is being done wrong. This being was very clear as explained. Listen, I'm not saying that you've done it wrong before, you've been doing it wrong, now you need to do it right. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying that the current way you were doing things has now exceeded its potential. You've reached the end. Congratulations. This is much as you can. You've gone as far as you can go with the two external eyes. And now you need to understand this knowledge directly about the practice of what needs to go on with the inner eye and the sounds that you're hearing. And I'm going to show you why. Notice where your consciousness is. So I noticed that my consciousness was pointed like in this direction, like it was a little bit off to the right side. Like I could feel everything, like even me trying to think that everything was off to the right side. And I've noticed this before in the meditations, by the way, but this time I noticed just how strong everything was coming from this direction. So what I always try to do is I try to bring the consciousness back into the center. And as I started trying to bring the consciousness in the third eye back into the center so I can focus, it was resisting. It was like I was in a ship and the inertia and the turbulence and all of that from even trying to turn out of the direction it was going was like too much. If you ever watch a movie where the pilot's like trying to take the plane out of a tailspin or whatever, it was feeling like that. So the consciousness, the being, the ancient one, the higher self, whatever term you want to give today, was like, force it. I'm like, force it? He's like, force it. Close your eyes harder and push your consciousness back into the center. So I was like, all right. So I close my eyes harder and I pull my back into the center. And then once it hit the center, I saw for a brief moment before monkey mind ate all of that, the frequencies pair up. Okay. So the first thing that's happening is that this nature, as we're calling it, this other world that is prehistoric, ancient, will always be here. When this one does whatever it does, that one will still be there. That's the one everybody will melt off into. We see half of it anyway through what we're calling sound. But because we don't pair it up we don't really see it. So it's almost like, and I'm just trying to articulate what happens, the difference between having a active third eye and a non-active third eye. You're just seeing trees from two eyes, but this is nowhere near what it is. This is like 1 or 2% of what it truly is. When you mate the sounds from listening together and you center the third eye, you see like it was beyond a city. It was high levels of creation. And it was an organic world that is in existence, always will exist. And it's so much more vast. If you want to say higher vibration, whatever term you want to give, whatever happens here will not touch it. I love the as above, so below concept, but I think that that is as the high as your mind can go and as further as your mind can go is as above, so below. But on the big spectrum, while we would like to make that the maximum for the big spectrum, there is no maxims for the big spectrum. There is no ends for the big. There is no definites for the big. It doesn't have that kind of thing going on. So it was like, whatever happens there never affects here. Do you really think that we would let these higher kingdoms of consciousness and entities that are existing, even your own brain states and all that kind of stuff, be touchable by what goes on in a two-eyed, confused, double-blind world? Nah, that's not how it works. That is the simulation. That is the lesson. That is the university. Now, I don't mean that it's a game and it's fake and it's not real. I wouldn't play yourself like that. People who are like that, stab them. See, well, I'm not saying go do that, but stab them and see. It'll get real then. So it's not good to play around with things that you don't understand and then to make them less than they truly are when you haven't made it a definite of what we mean when we say that this is an illusion. As I said before, when we say this is illusion, we're saying that there is just something that is so much more real. It makes this like an illusion. So even if you could feel the energy and the love and everything going on here, which is great, that is still a precursor to what is actually going on in the grand aspects of things.